Duncan and the hot air balloon. It was a beautiful day in the hills of Sodor. It was also the Thin Controller's twins' birthday. Every year, Duncan gave the twins a special birthday ride. Duncan was excited. At the depot, Duncan was getting ready. He had to look his best. His special birthday flag had been fixed to his cab. Duncan was very proud of his flag. Mr. Percival came to see Duncan. "Shall I pick up the twins now?" "No, Duncan. This year I'm giving them a ride in a hot air balloon for their birthday." Duncan was disappointed. He wanted to give the twins their birthday treat. "Duncan, you must collect a hot air balloon from the transfer yards." "Yes, sir." And he chuffed sadly away. Duncan pulled into the transfer yards. Thomas had brought the balloon from the docks. The balloon man was filling it with hot air. "Hello, Duncan." "Hello, Thomas." "That's a wonderful balloon." "You be sure to puff slowly and carefully." So Duncan huffed slowly away to Mr. Percival's house. On his way, Duncan rolled over a bumpy track. His flatbed clanked, rattled and jiggled. One of the ropes holding down the balloon came undone. "Oh dear," thought Duncan, "the bumpy track has jiggled the balloon loose. What shall I do?" Then an idea flew into Duncan's funnel. "If I jiggle the balloon more, it might float away. Then I could give the twins a ride today and they could have a balloon ride tomorrow." So Duncan began to jiggle backwards and forwards over the bumpy track. The ropes loosened and the balloon floated away. "Hooray!" And Duncan chuffed cheerily to the Thin Controller's house. Duncan puffed round a bend. Then he stopped. The hot air balloon had floated down. It was right in front of him on the track. Duncan bumped into the balloon. "Flatten my funnel. Now what should I do?" The basket wobbled and one of the sandbags fell off. It made the balloon rise up a little. Duncan was puzzled. He biffed the balloon again. More sandbags fell off. The balloon rose higher and floated away. Duncan was delighted. Duncan chuffed round another bend. "Bust my buffers!" There, on the bridge above him, was the balloon. "I thought the balloon had floated away. What shall I do now?" he thought. Duncan chuffed his biggest puff. The hot smoke from his funnel flew into the balloon. It made the balloon get bigger. This gave Duncan an idea. He huffed and puffed and puffed and huffed. The balloon got bigger and bigger and floated away. Duncan was delighted. He raced to the Thin Controller's house. The Thin Controller was waiting for him. "Where's the hot air balloon, Duncan?" "It came loose, sir, and floated away." The Thin Controller was upset. Then there was trouble. The balloon floated down from the sky once again, straight towards the weather vane on the Thin Controller's roof. It burst on the sharp point. The balloon tumbled down. Fizzling fireboxes. Duncan was upset. Now the twins wouldn't have their balloon ride at all. "It's all my fault, sir. I just wanted to give the twins their birthday treat, just as I always have. The thin controller was cross. Duncan, you were going to give the twins their birthday ride. You were going to pick them up and bring them here. Duncan felt even more upset. He wanted the twins to have a happy day. Sir, Peter Sam could pick up the twins. Then I will go and collect the balloon repairman. I'm sure he could fix the balloon. The thin controller thought this was a very good idea. So Duncan puffed quickly away. Duncan raced into Mountain Village Station. The balloon repairman was waiting. We must be quick, sir. The balloon has to be fixed before the twins get home. Duncan chuffed quickly back to the thin controller's house. The thin controller was very pleased to see them. The balloon repairman looked at the hole in the balloon. Oh dear, it's a very big hole. I don't have enough material to fix it. I know, sir. My birthday flag, it might just be big enough. The balloon repairman looked at Duncan's flag. Well, yes, Duncan. That would be perfect. The balloon repairman fixed the balloon just in time. Peter Sam arrived with the twins. They were delighted. Soon, Mr. Percival and the twins were floating high above the Island of Sodor. And Duncan felt so happy, he thought his boiler would burst. The Island of Sodor is surrounded by beautiful blue sea. It has fields of green and sandy yellow beaches. There are rivers, streams and lots of trees where the birds sing. There are windmills and a coal mine and docks where visitors to the island arrive. The island also has lots and lots of railway lines. Who's that puffing down the track? It's Thomas. Hello, Thomas. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Island of Sodor. Steady Eddie. Edward is one of the oldest engines on the Island of Sodor. Edward may not always be the fastest engine, but he certainly is the steadiest. And for the Fat Controller, a steady engine is a really useful engine. One morning, Edward puffed into the docks. Good morning. Then the Fat Controller arrived. The brand new brass water wheel has just arrived from the mainland. It is magnificent. It'll be displayed by the waterworks at Great Waterton. Emily, Gordon and Edward were very excited. They couldn't wait to see the magnificent water wheel. Edward, you will deliver the water wheel to Great Waterton. Edward beamed from buffer to boiler. Gordon and Emily were surprised. I've chosen you, Edward, because you are the steadiest engine. You are to take the express line. It is the smoothest and most direct way to Great Waterton. Gordon gasped. Edward was to use his express line. Cranky lowered the water wheel onto Edward's flatbed. It had a shiny brass rim that shone in the sun. Everyone looked at the magnificent water wheel. Edward the Steady is at the ready. And very slowly, Edward pushed his special out of the docks. Edward puffed up to the junction for the express line. Thomas was waiting. Bust my buffers, Edward. That's a very special. Edward was very happy. He looked ahead. If he took the express line, he couldn't stop for people to admire his magnificent water wheel. But if he took the other track, he could stop at stations and bridges and sidings. A lot of people would see his special. The signal changed. Edward didn't take the express line. Edward was having a wonderful time. He went past stations, under bridges, and past farms. Everyone cheered and waved. Edward the Steady was now Edward the Magnificent. Edward arrived at the junction. The track ahead is in need of repair. But the track ahead led to the school. Edward wanted the school children to see him, so he chuffed on towards the broken track. The track was very bumpy and jumpy. The shiny brass edge of the wheel started to cut into the ropes, but Edward didn't know. At the school, children cheered and waved. Edward wasn't looking at the red signal. Flatten my fender! Edward applied his brakes, but too late. The shiny brass edge of the water wheel cut even deeper through the ropes. Edward knew now that his long journey had made him late. Then he had an idea. I will chuff up Gordon's Hill, Edward thought. It's the fastest way to Great Waterton. And, he huffed to himself, the other engines on the hill will all see my special. Edward chuffed and huffed up Gordon's Hill. Oliver and Arthur passed him coming down. They both thought his special was magnificent. But the water wheel was very heavy. Edward huffed and puffed up the hill. At last, he reached the top. But the edges of the water wheel were cutting deeper and deeper into the ropes. Then there was trouble. With a final jolt, the ropes broke. The magnificent water wheel rolled off Edward's flatbed. For fizzling fireboxes! Gordon was further down the hill with flatbeds of scrap iron. The water wheel rolled down the hill. It bounced onto Gordon's flatbed. Now Edward's magnificent water wheel was on its way to the smelters. Edward had to get to the smelter's yard before Gordon. Edward puffed and Edward panted along every shortcut he knew. No one saw Edward pass, and no one stopped to wave. That no longer mattered to Edward. He had to save his magnificent water wheel from the smelters. Gordon puffed slowly into the smelter's yard. He pulled up outside the smelting shed. Then suddenly, there was Edward. Gordon was surprised. Edward the Steady had won his race against the fastest engine on Sodor. The magnificent water wheel was once again tied down to Edward's flatbed. Edward the Steady, once more at the ready. And his wheels clickety-clacked without a crunch or a crack, or a cheer or a clap along the way. The water wheel was put into place. It looks grand. It looks magnificent. And Edward didn't need anyone else to tell him that his had been a very special. Excellent Emily. It was autumn on the island of Sodor. There had been a terrible storm. Lots of tracks were blocked, and lots of engines had broken down. But Emily made it to Brendam Docks with her load. Well done. You're the only engine to arrive on time. You are excellent, Emily. That made Emily very proud. Excellent, Emily, she thought. I like that. The Fat Controller had a very important job for Emily. Jeremy cannot land at the airport, and my mother is on board. The storm has blown some metal tanks across the runway. You must collect Trevor from Farmer McCall's. Take him to the airport so that he can clear the runway. Then Jeremy can land. Oh, yes, sir. Excellent, Emily can do it. Then Murdoch puffed alongside Emily. I'm going to Farmer McCall's too. Lots of lines are flooded. Take the Wellsworth track. I'm not going on that track. It's much quicker to go through the forest. I'm excellent, Emily. I can make it through. So Emily puffed through the forest. But soon she was up to her axles in water. Nothing will stop me. Excellent, Emily will find a way through. So she puffed on through the water. It was hard work. At last, Emily chuffed out of the flood, but now she was late. Thomas was waiting at the junction. There's a fallen tree. It's blocking the tracks. Harvey's coming to clear it. I'm excellent, Emily. I don't need Harvey to clear the tracks for me. And she puffed proudly away. Emily chuffed up to the fallen tree. I'll easily push this out of my way, she huffed to herself. Emily pushed as hard as she could, but the tree didn't roll out of the way. It stayed in front of Emily. Now Emily had to push the tree up a hill. It was very hard work, and Emily was getting later and later. At last, Emily came to the top of the hill. The tree rolled away, and Emily raced down the other side. Emily met Duck at a junction. Trevor's waiting for you. Don't worry, I'll be there soon. Some of the tracks ahead are very muddy. If you get stuck in the mud, it's going to take you even longer. I'm excellent, Emily, and I know which tracks to choose. Duck was worried. Emily raced through the villages. She rattled through the valleys. I'm nearly there, Emily thought. Emily steamed round the final bend and straight into a big puddle of mud. I'll puff through this, thought Emily. Then the track started to sink. Emily was stuck. She didn't feel like excellent Emily anymore. Oh no, now I'll never get Trevor to the airport. Further up the track, Emily saw Murdoch. Murdoch's already there, she thought to herself. I should have listened to Murdoch. I should have taken the Wellsworth track. Now she needed Murdoch's help. Emily blew her whistle as loud as she could. Murdoch puffed over. I'm very sorry, Murdoch. You were right. Please, will you pull me out of the mud? Of course, Emily. Soon Murdoch was chained up to Emily. With a huff and a chuff, he pulled her out of the mud. Thank you so much, Murdoch. Emily puffed up to Farmer McCall's. Trevor was waiting. I must take you to the airport right away, Trevor. Emily pumped her pistons. Then she stopped. I know what I have to do, Emily thought. Murdoch, which tracks would you take to the airport? The tracks on Gordon's Hill are still being cleared. You should take the valley route instead. Thank you, Murdoch. And she puffed away. Emily puffed happily along the valley track. Murdoch was right, she thought. Then Emily saw a telegraph pole across the track in front of her. She was going to push it out of the way. Then she remembered what Thomas had said. I'd better wait for Harvey, she huffed to herself. Soon Harvey cleared the track and Emily was on her way again. Emily pulled up at a junction. Ahead, she saw a shortcut to the airport. That track's muddy. Emily remembered what Duck had said about muddy tracks. I don't want to get stuck again, thought Emily. I'll take the longer track. Soon Emily arrived at the airport. Trevor cleared the runway just in time. Jeremy landed smoothly and safely. The Fat Controller was delighted to see his mother. Well done, excellent Emily. You made it in time. That's because everyone helped me, sir. All of your engines are excellent engines. It's Thomas. Hello, Thomas. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Island of Sodor. Tram Trouble. Thomas the tank engine and Toby the steam tram are very good friends. Toby always tells Thomas when he's worried, and Thomas is always happy to help Toby. One bright morning, Thomas puffed into Arlesdale End. Hello, Toby. You look happy. The Fat Controller has asked me to lead the parade at the first Great Waterton Festival. Thomas was pleased for his friend. That's because you're the only steam tram on Sodor. Everyone will cheer for you. Thomas puffed quickly away. The Fat Controller was waiting for him at Great Waterton. He had 3 important jobs to do. Thomas raced into Great Waterton, fizzling fireboxes. Waiting on the rails was another steam tram. Thomas, this is Flora. She's the new steam tram on Sodor. Flora smiled her sunniest smile. Hello, Thomas. Hello. Flora is to lead the parade with Toby. Thomas gasped. Take Flora to meet Toby. Then Toby must bring Flora back here for the parade. Thomas was worried. Toby thinks he's leading the parade all by himself, thought Thomas. Now he will be very upset. I must keep Flora away from Toby until after the parade. Thomas and Flora arrived at the junction. Suddenly, an idea flew into Thomas's funnel. I will take Flora to do one of my jobs before we go to Arlesdale End, he chuffed to himself. By then, Toby will have left to lead the parade. Let's go to the woodyard first. It won't take long. That sounds exciting. So they raced away to the woodyard. Thomas collected a flatbed of heavy logs. Now we can meet Toby. Flora was pleased. Hooray! She peeped prettily. They set off. Toby, Toby, you must go. Hurry now to lead the show, Thomas puffed to himself. Flora and Thomas waited at the junction to Toby's shed. It looked empty. "Come on, Flora." Flora pumped her pistons perkily. Suddenly, Thomas saw steam coming from Toby's shed. Cinders and ashes, he thought. Toby's still there. Toby mustn't see Flora. "Flora, I've just remembered. We must go to the quarry first." Flora was surprised. "If you say so, Thomas." And they puffed away. At the shunting yard, Thomas was coupled up to the stone trucks. "Now we can meet Toby." That made Flora very happy. "Toby, Toby, please have gone. Lead the show, be proud and strong," Thomas puffed to himself. Thomas and Flora arrived at Arsdale End. This time, Thomas was sure Toby's shed was empty. "Come on, Flora." "Oh, no," thought Thomas. "Toby's still there. Toby mustn't see Flora. Flora, we're late to pick up my load. We must go to the docks." "If you say so, Thomas." And they puffed quickly away. At the docks, Thomas was coupled up to his large load to take to Great Waterton. Thomas was sure Toby would now be leading the parade. "Come on, Flora." Flora's axles ached, but Thomas steamed strongly. Thomas and Flora puffed up to the junction. Then there was trouble. Flora had chuffed too far. She had run out of coal. "I'm sorry, Thomas." Flora's wheels wobbled weakly. Thomas felt bad. He knew it was his fault. Then he heard a chuff and a puff and a ring of a bell. It was Toby. "Thomas, I've been waiting for you." Who's that?" "Cinders and ashes." Toby had met Flora. Neither of them was at the parade. The fat controller would be very cross. Thomas couldn't have felt worse. "Flora, this is Toby. Toby, this is Flora." Toby looked very happy. Thomas was surprised. "I wanted to tell you, Thomas, that I was too scared to lead the parade all by myself, but now Flora and I can lead it together." "I thought I knew what you wanted, Toby, but I was wrong." Now Thomas had to quickly put right his mistake. "Flora, take my coal. I'll pick up more. Puff as fast as you can to Great Waterton." Toby and Flora soon puffed away. Later, Thomas chuffed in to Great Waterton. The parade was ready to leave. Thomas's flatbed was uncovered. Flora gasped. She had a wonderful new tram car. Toby was pleased. Thomas watched his two friends lead the first Great Waterton parade. The children cheered. The brass band boomed. "Now I have another best friend, and she's a steam tram too." And Thomas smiled his happy. The island of Sodor is surrounded by beautiful blue sea. It has fields of green and sandy yellow beaches. There are rivers, streams, and lots of trees where the birds sing. There are windmills and a coal mine and docks where visitors to the island arrive. The island also has lots and lots of railway lines. Who's that puffing down the track? It's Thomas. Hello, Thomas. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Island of Sodor. push me, pull you. One bright spring morning at the coal yard, the yard manager was talking to Scar Loey. A puppet show is coming. The children will be excited. No one in the hills has ever seen a puppet show. Scar Loey wanted to pull the puppet show special, so he raced away. Scar Loey puffed into the transfer yards. Thomas and the thin controller were already there. Please, sir, may I pull the puppet show special? That's a fine idea, Scar Loey. Scar Loey's boiler bubbled with excitement. Watch out, they're heavy. Scar Loey buffered up. Slowly, Scar Loey puffed away. The trucks were heavy. But Scar Loey was happy. The puppet show special was his. Scar Loey heaved and hauled up the steep hill. At last, he reached the top. Rheneas was there. He was very excited to see the puppet show special. Those trucks look heavy. I could help you. But Scar Loey didn't want to share his special with Rheneas. No, thank you. I can pull these trucks on my own. I'm stronger than you. No, you're not. Oh, yes, I am. Then an idea flew into Scar Loey's funnel. We'll put the trucks between us and pull our hardest. The strongest engine will pull the puppet show special. Rheneas was soon coupled up to the back of the train. They pulled with all their strength and steam. First, the trucks trundled one way, then they trundled the other. Scar Loey was determined to win. Then Rheneas heard a creaking and a cranking. He knew the couplings were being pulled too hard, but Scar Loey wouldn't give up. I must win, he thought. Then there was trouble. With a crack and a clank, Rheneas's couplings snapped. The puppet show trucks bashed and bumped into Scar Loey and pushed him down the other side of the hill. Scar Loey was scared. He tried to apply his brakes, but they wouldn't work. Scar Loey flew faster and faster down the steep hill. Scar Loey saw Duncan. He was pushing trucks of bunting onto the main track. Look out, Duncan! Stop! But it was too late. Scar Loey crashed into Duncan's trucks. Bunting flew into the air. It fell all over Scar Loey. Duncan was cross. Oh, sorry, Duncan, but I must get the puppet show to the children. Scar Loey raced on. The puppet show special clattered and chattered. Then Scar Loey saw Rusty at a junction ahead. Rusty was pulling trucks of special ice cream. Out of my way! I can't stop! Rusty stopped right across the tracks. Scar Loey bashed into Rusty's trucks. Ice cream flew into the air and splattered all over the engines. Rusty was cross. Now there would be no ice cream at the puppet show. Sorry, Rusty, but I must get the puppet show to the children. So Scar Loey clattered on. Scar Loey was puffing towards Percival Pond. Then there was trouble. Scar Loey went round the bend too fast. He steamed into a siding. Scar Loey bashed through the buffers. With a splash, a sploosh and a splosh, Scar Loey plunged into Percival Pond. Fizzling fireboxes. I wanted to pull the puppet show special on my own. Now look what I've done. The children won't have ice cream or flags, and they won't have their puppet show. Help! But there was no one there to hear. Then Skarloey heard a whistle he knew. That's Rheneas, he thought. Rheneas puffed to the edge of the pond. Skarloey had never been happier to see his friend. I puffed as quickly as I could. Ha! I thought you might need my help. I do. I wanted to show you that I was the strongest, but all I have shown you is that I am the silliest. But Rheneas was happy to help. Slowly Rheneas heaved and hauled his friend out of the pond. At last, Skarloey was back on the rails, but his firebox was out, and his coal was wet. Rheneas, you must take the puppet show to the children. I have other jobs to do. Thank you, Skarloey. And Rheneas puffed proudly away with the puppet show special. Skarloey had a lot to do. He delivered new trucks of ice cream to Rusty. Then Skarloey found Duncan. Duncan's trucks were now filled with the bunting. I'm going to be late for the puppet show. Don't worry, Duncan. I'll help you. We'll steam to the showground in no time. Duncan and Skarloey arrived just in time. The children were gathered round the puppet show. Welcome everyone to the first puppet show in the hills. The children cheered. Skarloey puffed up to Rheneas. You're my best friend, Rheneas, and there's nothing stronger than friendship. The island of Sodor is surrounded by beautiful blue sea. It has fields of green and sandy yellow beaches. There are rivers, streams and lots of trees where the birds sing. There are windmills and a coal mine and docks where visitors to the island arrive. The island also has lots and lots of railway lines. Who's that puffing down the track? It's Thomas. Hello, Thomas. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Island of Sodor. Best friends. Thomas and Percy are best friends. They tell each other everything. They even have a best friend's whistle. It was a busy day at the quarry. Thomas and Percy were working together. Together, Thomas and Percy happily tooted their best friend's whistle. My favourite days are when we work together. Then Neville arrived to collect some trucks. He was excited. The brass band has arrived at Brendam Docks. Hooray! I like the brass band. So do I, but I'm never asked to pull them. If you go to the washdown now, you'll soon be as shiny as a trumpet. Then maybe the Fat Controller will ask you to collect them. Percy was excited. Thank you, Thomas. The two engines tooted their best friend's whistle, and Percy puffed happily away. Later, the Fat Controller had arrived. He was in a hurry. Thomas, you are to pick up the brass band from the docks, and don't forget to have a washdown. Thomas was worried. He knew Percy wanted to pick up the brass band, but he didn't know how to tell Percy that the Fat Controller had asked him to do it. Then Thomas saw Percy puffing back to the quarry. Look at me, Thomas. I'm as shiny as a trumpet. Thomas didn't know what to say. He didn't want to upset his best friend. The Fat Controller's sure to choose me now. This made Thomas feel even worse. He puffed quickly away. Where you going, Thomas? I have another job. Percy tooted his best friend's whistle, but Thomas couldn't toot back. Thomas was enjoying his washdown. Then he saw Percy in the distance. Thomas still didn't know how to tell Percy about the special, so he hid. Percy puffed past. He didn't see Thomas. Thomas was relieved. He chuffed out of the shed. He raced away to collect Annie and Clarabel. Then Thomas saw Percy again. I still don't know how to tell Percy about the brass band, thought Thomas. So he took a different track to the docks. Thomas knew it would take him longer. I must hurry. I don't want to be late, he thought to himself. Later, Thomas was steaming along. Cinders and ashes. There's Percy again. He was sure Percy was going to see him this time, so Thomas hid behind Duck. Percy puffed past. He didn't see Thomas hiding behind Duck's long line of trucks. Thank you, Duck. Duck looked puzzled. Thomas steamed onto the docks as fast as his pistons would pump. Thomas was late for the brass band. They were waiting on the dockside. All aboard. Then he saw some mail trucks. He knew Percy would soon come to collect them. Hurry up! The band hurried, but the trumpet player had left his trumpet behind, right at the end of the dockside. So Thomas had to wait. Just then, Percy arrived. Hello, Thomas. Percy saw that Thomas was collecting the brass band. He was very upset. Why didn't you tell me, Thomas? I tell you everything. Thomas felt terrible. He tooted his best friend's whistle, but Percy didn't whistle back. Thomas felt worse than ever. He puffed out of the docks with the brass band. Thomas arrived at Great Waterton. The Fat Controller was waiting to welcome the brass band. Thomas still felt very unhappy. He had let his best friend down. Thomas, you must come back at the end of the concert to pick up the brass band. Then an idea flew into Thomas's funnel. Sir, can Percy pick up the band? Percy is delivering the mail. If I pull Percy's mail trucks, then could he pick up the band? The Fat Controller agreed. So Annie and Clarabel were uncoupled, and Thomas steamed off to find his best friend. Now Thomas really wanted to find Percy, but Percy was nowhere to be found. Thomas was worried. The concert would finish soon, and the band would be waiting. Then Thomas saw Percy. He was waiting at a signal. I'm sorry I didn't tell you I was picking up the band. I'm busy. I have to pull the mail. I've something to tell you. I'll pull the mail for you. Then you can go and pick up the brass band and take them to the docks. Percy beamed from buffer to buffer. Thank you, Thomas. He was very excited. Thomas buffered up to Percy's mail trucks and quickly pulled away. He was pleased to help his best friend. Percy steamed off to pick up Annie and Clarabel. He couldn't wait to collect the brass band. Later, Thomas puffed into Great Waterton. Percy was waiting for the band. You are my best friend, Percy. From now on, I will always tell you everything. And they tooted their best friend's whistle for everyone to hear. The island of Sodor is surrounded by beautiful blue sea. It has fields of green and sandy yellow beaches. There are rivers, streams and lots of trees where the birds sing. There are windmills and a coal mine and docks where visitors to the island arrive. The island also has lots and lots of railway lines. Who's that puffing down the track? It's Thomas. Hello, Thomas.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Island of Sodor.
Rosie's Funfair Special. Rosie is a lively little tank engine. She is very quick. She also likes to be very busy. Any job is a good job for Rosie. One day, Rosie and Emily were at Knapford Station. The fat controller had some important news. The Funfair train is waiting at Brendam Docks. Rosie was excited. She hoped the fat controller would ask her to pull the Funfair train. Emily, you must pull the Funfair Special. Rosie was disappointed. Rosie, you must be Emily's back engine. Rosie didn't want to be the back engine. She wanted to pull the Funfair Special on her own.
I have a lot to do today. After we pull the Funfair Special, I have to collect milk from High Farm.
Rosie puffed sadly along. She wished she could pull the special on her own. Then Rosie had an idea. If she arrived at the docks before Emily, she could take the Funfair Special. Then Emily could puff straight to Hill Farm. That would really help Emily. So Rosie raced off as fast as her pistons would pump. Rosie puffed alongside the Funfair Special.
This is a very long train.
Rosie couldn't see that Emily was already coupled up and waiting for Rosie. Rosie quickly coupled up to the Funfair Special. Emily will be pleased, she thought. Still, Rosie didn't know that Emily was on the other end of the train. Then there was trouble. Rosie huffed and puffed. She heaved and hauled. The couplings groaned and strained until one of them snapped. Hooray! I'm pulling the Funfair Special! But Rosie had left half of it behind with Emily. Rosie puffed proudly along. The children were very excited to see Rosie pulling the Funfair Special. That made Rosie happy. Then there was trouble. Another coupling snapped. Up ahead, Bertie was carrying children to the funfair. Rosie chuffed by. Bertie started to toot his horn. He's tooting at my Funfair Special, thought Rosie. But Bertie was tooting because the coconut truck was rolling toward the level crossing. It smashed against the gate. Coconuts rolled everywhere. The level crossing was blocked, but Rosie didn't know. She puffed happily on. Then another coupling snapped. Rosie passed Stepney in a siding. Stepney was waiting to puff onto the main line. The points changed. Stepney blew his whistle loudly. He's whistling at my Funfair Special, thought Rosie proudly. But Stepney was whistling because the truck of sugar was now rolling towards him. Stepney was covered in pink sugar from funnel to footplate. But Rosie didn't know. She puffed proudly on. Rosie steamed up Gordon's Hill. Another coupling snapped. She heard an engine's whistle. They're whistling at my Funfair Special too, Rosie thought happily. But it was Emily with the rest of the funfair trucks. Rosie's flatbed was now rolling back towards Emily.
It bashed into Emily. Seats from the big wheel clattered and clanged all over the tracks. Emily was stuck. Rosie chuffed cheerfully into Maithwaite Station. Nobody waved or whistled. The fat controller was cross. I told you to be Emily's back engine. But I brought the Funfair Special all on my own, sir. I wanted to help Emily. You haven't helped anyone. You have caused confusion and delay. You've left half the train. Now there will be no funfair for the children. Rosie felt terrible. She had wanted everyone to be proud of her, and now they were cross. Please, sir, I know just what to do. I'm a very quick engine. I can collect all the trucks. Then I'll be Emily's back engine, and we will deliver the Funfair Special in time. So Rosie whooshed off as fast as her wheels would wear. First, Rosie collected Rocky. Then she pulled them as quickly as she could to Emily. Emily's tracks were still blocked. I'm so sorry, Emily. I only wanted to help you. Rocky will clear the line. I will collect the other trucks. Then we can deliver the Funfair Special together. Thank you, Rosie. Rosie left Rocky and she raced away to collect the first truck. She picked up the coconut truck. Then Rosie collected a new truck of sugar and she raced back to Emily. Rosie had been very quick. Rocky had just loaded the seats back onto the flatbed. I'm ready to be your back engine now. And together they set off up Gordon's Hill. Rosie and Emily arrived at Maithwaite. All the children waved at the two engines. We have delivered the Funfair Special in time. That evening, Rosie and Emily watched the children at the funfair. The children were having a wonderful time. I hope we can work together on another special. The sooner the better. Working with you is best of all. Rosie couldn't have felt happier. And marvel. The narrow gauge engines in the hills of Sodor always want to hear stories. Their favourite ones are about a magical engine called Proteus. Peter Sam enjoys these stories most of all. One morning, Peter Sam puffed into the transfer yards. He was very excited. Thomas is collecting the famous storyteller Mary Marvel. She is going to read at a special show. All the little engines whistled and wheeshed. I hope she tells stories about Proteus. Then the thin controller arrived. He gave them all special jobs. There is a lot to do. Please be back in good time for Miss Marvel. The little engines peeped their whistles excitedly. Peter Sam collected the cream churns quickly. I hope I'm the first to see Miss Marvel, he huffed to himself. So Peter Sam raced away. The churns clinked and clanked, and his wheels clickety-clacked. Freddie was waiting at a junction. He had a lot to do. You're in a hurry. Yes, I want to be the first engine to see Miss Marvel. I'm going to take a shortcut to the showground. And Peter Sam raced away down an old twisty track. Peter Sam huffed and puffed to the top of the old twisty track. Whee! He whistled as he rolled down the other side. Then he saw a thick hedge across the track. Oh no! Peter Sam crashed through the hedge. With a clang and a prang, he hit something hard. Fizzling fireboxes.
There, in front of Peter Sam, was a statue of Proteus. It was sitting on a rusty old flatbed. Some farm workers appeared to see what the noise was. Oh my, look! It's a statue of Proteus. It looks very old. Peter Sam thought his boiler would burst. Then an idea flew into his funnel. No one must see the statue before the show. It will be my wonderful surprise, and I will be the star of the show, he thought. Peter Sam tooted to the workers. Please, can you cover the statue? I'll be back to collect it soon. Peter Sam chuffed quickly back to the top of the old track. He stopped at the junction. Duncan chuffed up. He still had to collect benches for the show. Duncan, when you come back, don't take the shortcut. There's something blocking the track. Thank you very much. And Duncan chuffed off. Next, Mighty Mac pulled up. He still had to pick up flowers for the show. When you come back, please don't take the shortcut. There's something blocking the track. Thank you. And Mighty Mac chuffed off. Then Freddy puffed up. He still had to pick up lanterns for the show. Freddy, when you come back, please don't take the shortcut. There's something blocking the track. Ah, thank you. And he chuffed off. Peter Sam was pleased. Now the statue of Proteus was sure to be a surprise. The farm workers had covered the statue of Proteus. Peter Sam was coupled up to the flatbed. Peter Sam pumped his pistons. The cream churns were heavy, but Proteus' statue was even heavier. Peter Sam huffed and puffed to the top of the hill. Now I can roll down the other side, he thought. Peter Sam raced down the hill. There was a junction ahead. Oh no, this load is too heavy. Help! Peter Sam smashed into a buffer. The cream churns crashed. The junction was blocked. Bubbling boilers! I'll never be the star of the show now. The other engines can't get through. I've spoiled everything for everyone. Then Peter Sam heard the whistles of his friends. Duncan, Freddy and Mighty Mac arrived at the junction. They were surprised at the mess. Peter Sam felt very silly. I'm sorry. I wanted to be the star of Miss Marvel's show. He told them about finding the statue of Proteus. The engines gasped. The statue belongs to us all. Please, will you help me take it to the show? His friends were happy to help. Duncan chuffed away to find an engineer for Peter Sam. Mighty Mac puffed to tell Mr. Percival about the statue. Freddy, will you take Proteus to the show? Freddy was delighted. It would be an honour. Soon the engineer fixed Peter Sam's brakes. Now you're ready to go, Peter Sam. Later, Peter Sam collected fresh cream from the farm. I know Miss Marvel's show has started, but all the other engines will be there to enjoy the statue. Peter Sam chuffed his long way back. Peter Sam puffed up quietly. Miss Marvel was just finishing her last story. Oh my! The statue is still covered. Today, one of our engines found something very special. So this is for all the little engines of the hills, because you are all special. Everyone gasped at the wonderful statue. The engines whistled. Peter Sam smiled. We are all stars of the show.